And they cited chapter and verse to support that statement. And what they cited was as follows. Since the end of World War I, we have been responsible for what they call the institutionalizing of conflicting interests. And they are so prevalent inside this country that they can never be resolved.
Mr. Dodd gives one of the best interviews about learning how sneaky and underhanded nonprofit organizations can be, non-taxable organizations can be, and how sneaky and lying individuals work in business and, dare I say, in government. So they have been responsible for the institutionalizing of the conflict of interest in banking. All right? Institutionalize. The first meaning for it is established in practice or custom. The second meaning is established as part of an official organization. So they have now made the practice of unfair business the norm, because he said it is that they've institutionalized the conflict of interest. So they have made prevalent the idea of bad business. And they also said it's going to continue. They didn't say it's going to continue, but if we are returning to sound banking, then at the very least, what we have is people who just don't care to do the right thing because it's become normal. It's an official part of an organization to be corrupt. That's pretty much what they said. It's official now for corrupt business to be done and the conflict of interest. So they don't care what happens to the stock market or what happens to gold or what happens to silver. They're all about chaos, because that's what's going to happen if you don't care about the right thing, because they're making bad business be the norm. So, I've always been saying this, that you can find out that people working in government and working in banking, the heads of business really just don't care. Because if they did, and they were righteous people, they would be involved in sound banking. What we're talking about here is just outright bad business, and they don't give a damn that they put bad business as the model for what businesses should be operating under. They're operating under bad business principles, and no one cares. And in fact, it's going to be the norm now for business to have conflict with the things that should be good. But no, you would think when you're in business to make money, and they're going to make money. But in order for them to make money, they're going to trick you and steal from you and make you invest in things, as in the dollar, an ungrounded dollar, meaning it doesn't have gold and or silver behind it. There's nothing backing the money, and no one cares. In fact, before the Federal Reserve came into being, we used to charge other countries a tariff, as everyone knows, on imports. And we use that money that we gain from the tariffs from other people's countries to fund our government. The money didn't come from the people in the form of an income tax. In fact, a progressively heavier income tax, which is part of communism. We charge other countries money to bring their goods in, unless they wanted to bring their operations here, and then they wouldn't be taxed for it because they would be made here. And then not only that, you're also helping to give Americans jobs. How about that? NAFTA really put an end to that, but they really put an end to it a long time ago. and a document called the Bretton Woods Agreement. Brettons. Bretton Woods Agreement. You guys should go check that out.
This came to me as an extraordinary shock because the men who made the statement were men who were deemed as the most prominent bankers in the country. The bank of which I was a part was spoken of as a Morgan bank. And coming from men of that caliber, a statement of that kind made a tremendous impression on me. And the type of impression that it made on me was I wondered if I, as an individual and it's what they call a junior officer of the bank, could, with the same enthusiasm, foster the progress and the policies of the bank. I spent about a year trying to think this out and came to the conclusion that I would have to resign. I did resign, and as a consequence of that, had this experience. When my letter of resignation reached the desk of the president of the bank, he sent for me. And then I came to visit with him, and he stated to me, "Norm, I have your letter, but I don't believe you understand what's happened in the last 10 days. And I said, "No, Mr. Cochran, I have no idea what's happened." Well, he said, "The directors have never been able to get your report to them out of their mind. And as a result, they have decided that you, as an individual, must begin at once, and you must reorganize this bank in keeping with your own ideas." And he then said, "Now, can I tear up your letter?" And inasmuch as what had been said to me was offering me, at the age of, by then, 33, about as fine an opportunity for service to the country as I could imagine, I said yes. And they said they wished me to begin at once. And I did, and suddenly, in the span of about 6 weeks, I was not permitted to do another piece of work. And every time I brought the subject up, I was kind of patted on the back and said, and told, "Stop worrying about it, Norm. Pretty soon you'll be a vice president, and then you will have quite a handsome salary and ultimately be able to retire on a very worthwhile pension. In the meantime, you can play golf and tennis to your heart's content on weekends." Well, Mr. Griffin, I found I couldn't do it. I spent a year with figuratively with my feet on the desk doing nothing, and I just couldn't adjust to it. So I did resign. And this time, my resignation stuck, and then I got my second shock, which was the discovery that the doors of every bank in the United States were closed to me, and I never could get a job, as it were, in a bank.
In these areas, the truth and the right thing to do is looked down upon. It just is. You know, the more you examine society, especially today, the more we've gotten away from understanding what the truth is and what it means and how potent the truth is to the mind and society. There is no way in hell they wanted him to change their banking principles. They just wanted to see where his head was at and eventually if he would give up and be a yes man. Whatever they said, they just wanted him to do, including just sit back. We got you. They was gonna pay him literally for him to do nothing. They just wanted him on their side because if he's quiet, then there's less friction in the world for them to have to deal with as far as what the truth is about banking. They wanted him on their side. They were basically paying him off, bribing him to be quiet. They asked him, hey man, what's the deal? Sit back, chill out. You gonna get some money? You better chill off and ride off into the sunset. Like Zorro, Tonto, whoever else rides off into the sunset. Hell, I don't know. But that's what they wanted. Shut up, be quiet, go along with the program, all is well.
So I found myself, for the first time since I'd graduated from college, out of a job. And from there on, I followed various branches of the financial world, ranging from investment counsel to membership of the stock exchange, and finally ended up as an advisor to a few individuals who had capital funds to look after. In the meantime, my major interest became very specific, which was to endeavor, by some means, of getting the educational world to actually, you might say, teach the subject of economics realistically and move it away from the support of various speculative activities that characterize our country.
So we have two words, fairly simple, very clear to understand. He said that he wanted to make it so schools and colleges and whatever other institutions I'm sure he could think of gave a clear understanding of what real banking is, about what the true standard of banking should be. The realistic way to do it, right, is the first definition is a way that demonstrates a sensible and practical idea of what can be achieved or expected. The second definition is a way that is accurate and true to life. Now, we can then go and compare that with speculative. And speculative is engaged in expressing or based on conjecture rather than real knowledge. And then the second way is of an investment involving a high risk of loss. So Dodd wants people to learn that the speculative way really isn't based upon any sort of science. It's just whatever. It doesn't really mean anything. In fact, it involves a high risk of loss compared to the realistic way to do things, which should net you good gains and sensible banking. But those people don't really want any real sensible banking back in America, right? Ever again. They're not going back to sound banking, they said. If you go back and rewind just a little bit, you'll see the word speculative. And speculative, a similar word to that, is conjectural, meaning conjecture. So, bouncing off of conjecture, we got a lot of words down here. We got guess, speculation, surmise, fancy, notion, belief, suspicion, an estimate, an approximation, a theory, an assumption, theorizing, a shot in the dark. That means it's kind of aimless. And the opposite of conjecture is fact. So why can't we get factual banking? Because they don't want it.